case.
Now, any main blockage of body heat would be detected, and that includes laptops. But instead of pulling over to the side everyone with a laptop, it would be up to an officer's personal discretion, and also, more importantly, bomb-sniffing dogs to detect any main threat.
You know, people have backpacks, purses, like you said, food, you know. That's what we're going to avoid by using the dog as kind of our secondary layer. So it's not just one piece of equipment we're relying on. We're relying on the piece of equipment, we're relying on the dog.
Authorities are also always on the lookout for any suspicious behavior at metro stations. Actually, all of us should be too. Other benefits to the devices: there's no radiation exposure, no intrusive x-rays of body parts. Metro passenger Robin Dew likes that it doesn't slow her down on the way to making the train.
You're just walking by, and it's not bothering you. You're not until you're bothering it.
Metro plans on purchasing this or something like it soon. In downtown Los Angeles, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The fact that it's portable means being able to move the device from station to station. Metro has tested 3 similar systems since last summer and hopes to have one in place by the end of the year. Well, for some kids in underserved communities, dreams can be lost in the reality of everyday life. But thanks to the legacy of one young artist, more dreams are coming true.
I represent where I'm from to the fullest because for me, it's a place of many abandoned dreams, the good and the bad things.
Jojo Estrada was an artist, a graduate of CalArts acting program, a community-minded 23-year-old with a promising future. But above all else, he was committed to one very special goal.
Jojo is all about letting young people achieve their dreams, and no matter what background you come from, what economic level, socioeconomic level you come from, that all is possible. He taught them that. He taught the kids in the neighborhood that. He was teaching them that when he passed away.
Jojo was killed in a car accident in 2014, leaving behind his heartbroken parents and sister, but also a legacy. At a recent meeting of the LA City Council, Councilman Jose Huizar honored Jojo's family for finding beauty in tragedy.
We listened to his poem, Abandoned Dreams, and we said, that's it. That's going to be our job now.
The same year they lost their son, the Estradas created the Embrazy Foundation to honor Jojo, a young man who truly cared about his community and the often forgotten people on the fringe of society.
Since it began in 2014, the foundation has raised $50,000 for scholarships and arts programs, giving Eastside students the chance to pursue their own dreams.
Jojo just loved life, had a big smile. He always cared about the community. So his poem, Abandoned Dreams, talks about the dreams in the community being abandoned for different reasons.
It is a poem about the need to take the world, look at the world around you, and truly consider the people you see and to help.
4 years later, Jojo's words still resonate, and they continue to make a difference.
That some can overcome poverty and greed's obstacles. Don't allow these dreams to go to waste because the minds of these people can never be replaced.
For more information on the Embrazy Foundation and what you can do to help, visit Embrazy.org. From city services to the latest in mobility, the Abilities Expo offered a one-stop shop for people with disabilities and their families. Living a full life can be tough for someone with a disability. From getting around the neighborhood to enjoying sports or managing finances, it's not always easy to find the help you need. But thanks to the Free Abilities Expo at the Los Angeles Convention Center, there's a one-stop shop to find it all.
It's a variety of products and services and free resources for people with disabilities so that they can find things to make things easier or better or more fun for them and their families.
The expo, now in its 40th year, also featured free workshops and topics ranging from travel to financial planning. The city's Department on Disability was also on hand to help people connect with local resources.
What we're trying to make sure is that folks know that we are available to them. We are very focused on ensuring that all city services, facilities, programs are accessible. And so we like to make sure that folks have the opportunity to let us know, one, what needs to be fixed, if anything, and really just here for the community.
There are plenty of options to help people get around, from service dogs to motorcycles to a wide selection of accessible vehicles, and even a state-of-the-art exoskeleton offering a new degree of increased mobility. The expo proved to be a hit with visitors.
Oh, I like it a lot. It's very nice. Everything's going really well. I'm enjoying myself very much.
For information on all the services the city offers, visit disability.lacity.org. Residents in downtown City West neighborhood usually have to travel blocks to get to the nearest grocery store. But not anymore. This market's so close to home. In fact, for some tenants, it's in the building. Gil Reyes reports on this new alternative for downtowners living west of the 110.
People in the City West section of downtown shop in the neighborhood's first and only full-fledged market, Grocery Outlet. It's located on the ground floor of the Sophia Los Angeles Apartments on 6th and Bixel.
I live just up the street and I wanted a local grocery store, so it's my first time here and I like it a lot.
He likes the prices too. As the sign says, a bottle of organic Ocean Spray cranapple drink is just $2 here, around $4 elsewhere.
The prices were just right. I love it.
Our shoppers in our community can expect 40 to 70% savings on brand name items.
Carlos Torres owns City West's Grocery Outlet. All outlets are independently owned. And while the food here is consistent, the brand names they carry often vary from week to week. So get your favorite brands while they last. Torres says buying bulk from distributors is one way he gets bargains.
We are able to extend those deals and those savings to our customers.
A new place to shop for me. I actually live in the neighborhood now. City West's Councilman Gilbert Cedillo says all 30-plus employees here at the market are also from the neighborhood. He worked with the market as well as the nonprofit Central City Neighborhood Partners to help ensure local hires.
That's huge. It's a way of getting integrated into the community. It means so much to the people who got hired.
Ask Alicia Presley. She says she applied through the city's WorkSource job centers, was interviewed at City Hall, and hired on the spot. Today she works cashier.
I like it a lot. I love introducing myself to the people. It's a great prices, so it kicks up a best conversation ever. People can't believe the prices.
I'm looking forward to it because I live nearby and it's going to be a convenience for me.
Even closer for residents of the Sophia, who could shop here without ever really leaving home. From downtown City West neighborhood, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Parking in the area can be scarce, but there are 30 free 90-minute garage spaces available. If you've ever felt you're taking your life into your hands trying to cross some LA City streets, you're not alone. The city is taking steps to make sure your next step isn't your last. The statistics are devastating.
I think most people don't realize that we have more people who are killed from traffic fatalities than we have gang homicides. And almost as many people die from traffic fatalities as all the homicides in LA in a given year.
With pedestrian deaths surging across the city, Mayor Eric Garcetti announced a new initiative to slow motorists down and educate Angelenos about their responsibility in keeping our streets safe.
26 streets where speed limits have been adjusted up, increased, 45 streets where the speed limits have been lowered, and a number, the rest, the balance, are all staying the same.
The new speed limits are the result of a citywide survey of streets where deaths and serious injuries are more likely to take place. City officials also corrected a major problem that made enforcement of existing speed limits a challenge. The state mandates that a street's speed limit must be certified on a regular basis, but many of these certifications had expired,
which made it impossible for LAPD to enforce the speed limit using radar or laser on too many of our streets.
By the end of the year, officials say most of the streets will be certified and their speed limits enforced. Councilmember Mike Bonin says the city should do everything it can to make everyone safe.
The leading cause of death in Los Angeles County of children under the age of 14 should not be traffic collisions. Our most vulnerable, pedestrians, seniors, people with disabilities, people from lower income communities, people who are undocumented should not be at such risk as they are right now.
The focus on enforcement is just part of a larger initiative called Vision Zero, which aims to eliminate traffic deaths in Los Angeles by the year 2025.
The Vision Zero action plan from the Department of Transportation, which talks about the rest of the E's. It talks about the steps we need to take in education, the steps we need to take in engineering to make sure that every street is safe for everyone trying to get across Los Angeles and for every kid trying to get to school.
We have a pedestrian pledge, which we have our children take. We have a driver's pledge, which we have our drivers take. And it's just that whole focus on education and then the enforcement efforts and then embracing the new engineering aspects.
With the help of some young Angelenos, the mayor and Councilman Bonin left Angelenos with some common sense advice.
Slow down! All right.
To find out more about Vision Zero and how you can do your part as a driver or pedestrian, check out visionzero.lacity.org. Do you have the next billion-dollar invention? Well, the newly established Chatsworth Northridge Industrial Corps aims to bring some bold ideas to life with community fun and learning in mind. Gil Reyes has more from Chatsworth. Gil.
Yes, Yana, just beyond these glass doors is what LA City Council member Mitchell Englander calls the best kept secret in the entire San Fernando Valley, a tinkerer's paradise where product dreams can come true.
Nuna Karajian, a retired teacher, is designing a product that she says could improve the solar industry. We can't show you the idea yet. For now, it's a secret.
But I think it's waiting for me to just do it.
And you're making it here?
I'm making it here.
We are at HexLab Makerspace, located in an unassuming industrial park in Chatsworth. Here, professional and amateur tinkerers make prototypes of robotic hands, wooden toys, basically anything they dare to imagine. Now, some of these creations are just for fun. Others are intended for the mass market someday. Helping to make dreams come true is a treasure trove of accessible laser cutters, 3D printers, and other cutting-edge technology at HexLab. The space was founded by Mike Hexter, a product designer with a lot of extra equipment.
So when the machines were just sitting there not being used, it killed me. So I wanted to open up the doors to the public and inviting the community to learn how to use the machines.
For $110 a month, you have access to all the machines. HexLab offers discounted memberships for seniors and teens, also classes for beginners.
So this is an example of a product that somebody designed and developed here without any prior experience. So we have a welder who came in and they wanted to learn how to use the laser cutting machines as well as electronics to control the LED lights and change all the colors. So they started with a simple 2-hour class. They did a second 2-hour class, and when they were done, they started making.
They bring in people of all ages, from school children that take field trips. You can have a membership here and come regularly.
Chatsworth's Councilman Mitchell Englander and I take a tour of HexLab. It's actually part of the much larger Toolbox LA Innovation Hub, home to several other hardware startups working together to help ensure product success.
The entrepreneurship hub of the Valley. It's meant to inspire and engage. So in the building, we have Make in LA, which is a hardware accelerator. They invest in people's products. And then upstairs, we have Toolbox LA, a huge co-working facility. There are conference rooms for businesses to use, offices, desks. They can rent them for a day or for a month. It's a great platform for businesses to be launched from. We have a 200-person event space, and over here is one of the Artists in Residence projects. This was a plain old school bus, and we stripped down all the paint, sanded it down, and an artist has come in and drawn and created a masterpiece.
This party bus was refurbished with the help of woodworking tools at HexLab, and inside a DJ booth. For birthday parties, corporate events, the sky's the limit.
The whole idea is not just to be a creative space, but a gathering space, to have fun, to have different types of events. It's certainly programmable, so you can make learning fun.
Councilman Englander says Toolbox LA and HexLab fit right into his Innov 818 master plan, reserving roughly 3 square miles of Chatsworth and Northridge as an ultra-modern industrial core.
To market this area to businesses, to bring them here, to show them what we have, and then be able to program all the other companies and the nonprofits around it and who's here, like HexLab, that they have this in their backyard. They can home grow a future workforce. We can protect this area in perpetuity and then just grow it from what it already is. It's a magical place.
A place where you're only limited by your imagination.
Here, if you can dream it, you can build it.
Reporting from the new Chatsworth Northridge Industrial Core, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Bring your idea to life. Find out more at hexlabmakerspace.com. A plan to house people who are homeless in shelters at El Pueblo moves forward. A new plaque commemorates the historic LA student walkouts 5 decades ago, and the Asian community marks the end of the Chinese New Year. All these stories in City Beat. The Los Angeles City Council approved Councilmember Jose Huizar's motion to provide 5 trailers for temporary shelter, restroom and showers, as well as case management space to assist those experiencing homelessness at a city-owned parking lot near El Pueblo in downtown Los Angeles.
3, 2, 1.
Community members joined Wilson High School Alumni Association to unveil a bronze plaque sponsored by Councilmember Jose Huizar and other partners to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Chicano student walkouts at El Sereno Middle School, the site of the original Wilson High School where students were the first to walk out of classes on March 1, 1968. They were protesting poor education and prejudicial policies against Mexican American students.
The school had a tier system, a tracking system in which most of the Mexican American and Chicano students were being placed in shop classes and in home economics classes instead of college preparatory classes. And so we weren't getting the education that we were entitled to, that we deserved. And so it was important for us to demonstrate that we were going to protest this, we weren't going to stand for it, we were going to do something about it.
Chinese Americans and other community members came out for the 17th annual Los Angeles Lantern Festival. The event occurs annually on the 15th day of the first lunar month to mark the closing of Chinese New Year festivities. The Lantern Festival embraces the mission of the Chinese American Museum to foster a deeper understanding and appreciation of America's diverse heritage.
And it's about learning about each other where we dispel fears and we build friendships and love. And we want to come together as a city, we want to come together as Angelenos, we want to come together as Los Angeles, because in Los Angeles we celebrate diversity.
Each year, Chinatown plays host to one of the city's most colorful celebrations, maintaining a tradition that's been going strong for 119 years. The Lunar New Year is one of the most festive holidays for the Southland's 1.5 million Asian Americans, and the heart of that celebration is right here in Chinatown. Welcome to the Golden Dragon Parade.
We have the best Los Angeles weather. Of course, it always shines brightest here in the First District.
This year's parade featured dragons, of course, but also celebrated the Year of the Dog, a symbol of loyalty, honesty, and friendship.
I was born on the Year of the Dog too, which is pretty cool. So it's just a lot of fun.
I love the atmosphere. I love the celebration, the confetti, and all the kids shooting off the confetti.
I like the dragon.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Past Grand Marshals of the Golden Dragon Parade have featured celebrities, including Bruce Lee and David Carradine. Well, looking for a new haircut? Why not cut it all off for a good cause? Waffle Mania hits downtown LA, and check out the work of some local artists. All this in this week's Things to Do. Come out and help raise money at the annual LAFD-LAPD St. Baldrick's fundraiser to fight kids' cancer. Participants will be shaving heads in order to raise awareness and funds for childhood cancer research. The family-friendly event features a free breakfast, magicians, caricature and balloon artists, face painters, fire and police apparatus displays, a silent auction, and prizes and toys for the kids. And all of the entertainment is free. It all takes place Saturday, March 24th from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at LAFD Fire Station 89, located at 7063 Laurel Canyon Boulevard. If you love waffles, then you won't want to miss Waffle Day, celebrated on March 25th every year, per the Swedish tradition. Organizers are bringing the fun, food, and good times to downtown LA. Enjoy beverages, live music, and all the best waffles in LA, from savory to sweet. Festival takes place on March 24th and 25th at Pershing Square. For more, visit wafflesandbeerfest.com. In the heart of Leimert Park thrives a group of community business members with a passion to develop an event rooted in the foundations of culture, art, music, and community. On the last Sunday of the month, Leimert Park Village invites the public over to enjoy a day filled with art exhibits, music, fashion, food, drumming, and other creative endeavors for the whole family. Plenty of DJ spinning, rhymers, rapping, and poets of the spoken word combined with traditional artists and the legendary drum circle. Don't miss the fun on Sunday, March 25th at Leimert Park Village. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane from all of us here at LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm an Iyengar yoga teacher here in Los Angeles, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35, Our City, Our Channel. Namaste.
Good morning, good morning. Shh. If everyone could please take their seats so that we can begin our council meeting for today. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. Would you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Herstassen, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Wesson. 13 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
O'Farrell moves, Martinez seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Bonin moves, Cedillo seconds. Next.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday and time for the flag salute.
Okay, we will ask Mr. Koretz to lead us. In fact, no. What we're going to do, we're going to ask Mr. Bloomingfield to lead us in our pledge. If all would please rise for our flag salute. Since Mr. Bloomingfield has a special day coming up, I think we should ask him to lead us in our flag salute.
All right. If you could please place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, why don't we continue running through the rest of the agenda?
Mr. President, the Department of Building and Safety requests that item 1D be continued to April 18th. Item 1B, the lien amount be reduced to $1,791.79 and continue to April 18th. And finally, item 1C, the lien amount be reduced to $890.40 and continue to April 18th.
Okay, without objection, so ordered. Could you continue, please?
Items 1 through 7 are items noticed for public hearing.
Do you have cards?
Yes, there are cards on all items.
Okay, continue.
Items 8 through 23 are items for which public hearings have been held. There is a request from a member to hold item 8 and 18 on the desk for amending motions.
Okay, so let's, we'll hold that item and let's hold 23 as well. Let's prepare to vote on the remaining, Mr. Englander.
Item, I don't know if you called 20 yet. If you could hold 20 on the desk.
We'll hold 20 as well. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Continue, Madam Clerk.
And Mr. President, there is a request from a member to send item 9 forthwith.
Okay, without objection, so ordered.
Items 24 through 35 are items for which public hearings have not been held. There is a request to hold item 28 on the desk for a substitute motion.
Okay, well, let's hold that item, and without objection, again, those items are before us. Do you have cards?
Yes, there are cards on items 24 and 26.
Okay, let's hold those and vote on the remaining items. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That brings us where?
Mr. President, that takes council back to presentations, items called special or general public comment.
Okay, so what I want to do right now with Channel 35 members, Members, if I could have you pay attention to our screen. Some of the, in fact, let me be nasty. Some of us that were here on time saw the debut of our new opening. So I'd like for all of you to watch this. If I could get Channel 35 to run that one more time. Give Channel 35 a round of applause. Channel 35, thank you. They came out to every district, and I think what this demonstrates is, you know, we are a city of 15 districts, and every district is important. So one more round of applause. I thought they did great work. Okay, and since everybody's in a good mood, all the way from my district, the Browerman Elementary School, 3rd grade class. Stand up, guys. Give them a round of applause. Browerman Elementary School East. Their teachers, Miss Anderson and Miss Feldman. Miss Rodriguez, do you want to begin today's work?
Well, it's hard to follow up that Channel 35 act there.
You can do it.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President. Today's a very special day, and for someone who has had literally baptism by fire, this is something that I've become increasingly more a champion of. Every year, communities across the nation recognize March as Smoke Alarm Awareness Month, an event that highlights the importance of installing smoke detectors and saving lives. You know, after the La Tuna fire, my office worked very closely with MySafe LA and, of course, our LA City Fire Department to walk many of the streets and hillside communities of Sylmar to help ensure that many of our residents were really well prepared with the adequate smoke detectors installed in their homes. I will say that one of the good outcomes of that is these were some of the very same neighborhoods that weeks later were forced to evacuate as a result of the Creek Fire. So this proactive effort, working both collaboratively with LAFD and MySafe LA, has been an important part of how we're doing business in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. I'm proud to partner with the Los Angeles Fire Department and MySafe LA to recognize the importance of this month and to remind everyone that it is very important to make sure that you're checking and installing appropriate smoke detectors in your home. And I am joined today by our Fire Operations Valley Bureau Assistant Chief John Drake, MySafe LA Executive Officer David Barrett, and MySafe LA Director of Resilience and Government Affairs Harut Samerjian. And at this time, I'd like to invite Chief Drake, who is, of course, kind of splitting his time this morning because with the impending rains, we are preparing in my district for the potential for mudslides now. And so I want to invite Chief Drake for some remarks. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Council Member. It's an honor to be here. And that is a fabulous vignette and a tough act to follow, but we'll do our best. I wanted to thank Council Member Monica Rodriguez, Chief of Staff Doug Tripp, and Deputy Felicia Orozco for their leadership over these past emergencies that we've had since their time in Council District 7. It's been a great relationship, and we always talk about partnerships and the importance of them. And what I would like to emphasize repetitively and resoundingly is not just the partnerships, but it's the public-private partnerships that we have with agencies like MySafe LA. But I wanted to add the citizen component of it, too. And that transcends into Mayor's Executive Directive number 22 on a resilient LA, where he was reinforcing the importance of a safe, strong city and a sustainable roadmap, and to use this as a strategic planning tool to advance the safety of our residents in our 69 miles comprising Los Angeles. We need to invest in strategies that address the greatest risk, and we're certainly moving ahead with that with these partnerships. With this executive directive, the mayor has reinforced, as well as a partnership with the University of Southern California, Council District 7, MySafe LA, and the LAFD, we are working towards a comprehensive community resiliency model that we can use out in the areas where Creek and La Tuna and Council District 7 were. These partnerships are paramount to the success of this, and I can say that I have had the opportunity to participate in these for years in the past with MySafe LA and the SAFE programs. From the community walks that Councilmember Rodriguez mentioned in Sylmar, up until recently being the incident commander at the Wilmington fire where we had a fatality, and I had the opportunity to reach out to the same very partners to help us succeed in these public safety endeavors. And last, I want to reinforce the importance of, we are leaning forward. We have a field incident management team out at Fire Station 89 in anticipation of the rains that we are going to have over the next couple of days. So all of these proactive measures are certainly important and paramount to the success of public safety that we are pursuing as partners with CD7, the LAFD, LAPD, MySafeLA, and very importantly, our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Drake. And again, these partnerships wouldn't really be successful if it wasn't also for the support that we get from MySafeLA, who in these walks goes in and does the installation, goes and visits the homes and does the installation for these very important smoke detectors, making sure that they're installed correctly in the appropriate locations, and making sure that our residents are fully aware. They are also the operators of the notification system, which has been so important, and we've had to test this multiple times in my short tenure in office, but it works. And making sure that we are communicating effectively during these mass evacuations, MySafeLA has been an incredible partner with that. So at this time, I'd like to invite David Barrett.
Let's give them a round of applause. They do a lot of hard work. They're great people. Welcome.
Good morning, Council President. Thank you, Monica, for all of your support and for every council member that we work with, Chief Drake, the LAFD. MySafeLA, as you know, is a nonprofit organization, and as such, we are very restricted in how we pull money together to do these things, but it is a dedicated effort on behalf of all of our members. Just during the last 3 years, we have provided over 34,000 smoke alarms to residents in the city of Los Angeles. And it's an important thing for us to know how that moves forward. We also install CO detectors. Just last week, in taking the elevator up to the fire chief's floor, an inspector stopped us and said, you know, you saved some lives last week. And I asked why. I was with Cameron, our education director. He said, 6 months ago, we were in a home. There were no smoke alarms. And we called you guys, and you installed a CO detector and smoke alarms. Last week, we had an EMS run for a sounding CO detector, and the family would have died if you had not been there. This past Sunday, there was a fatality in Operation South Bureau in Wilmington, and this coming Saturday, not only will our teams be there canvassing, but we have invited the American Red Cross. It's Red Cross Month, and we have an MOU with them as well. They're going to provide 100 volunteers. We hope to hit 500 homes this coming weekend and install almost 2,000 smoke alarms. So this is an important month. It's an important endeavor. On behalf of our leadership and our people, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And so again, colleagues, I just want to remind you, it's really important that many of our residents register for MySafeLA's notification system for Notify LA, and they can do it by simply texting to READY to 888-777, and they will get prompted so that they could be notified of any emergency evacuation efforts going forward. It's really going to require all of us communicating this similar message out into our communities, and I suggest that each of you, if you haven't endeavored to do it, the next emergency is just around the corner, and so I would really urge you to work with MySafeLA and the LA City Fire Department to make sure that our residents are really aptly prepared for the next possible emergency. And so with that, I'd like to present this certificate to MySafeLA on Smoke Alarm Awareness Month, and thank you very much for your work.
Thanks, Betsy.
Let's go. We'll take a photo in the back.
Okay, Mr. Bonin, before I recognize you, since we do have some students here, I'm going to ask Mr. Murphy. Sergeants, if we could let Mr. Murphy through. Oh, there. Mr. Murphy?
Yes. What items?
You have items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mr. Murphy?
Yes, item 1, I am against. Item 2, I am against. Item 3, I am against. General public comment.
Let's go to his general public comment for 1 minute.
I found out that Tom Bergens is gone. How many other places we have to lose? Two parts in Studio City's gone. Like I say, how many more places we have to lose? I mean, what's going to be next? The original El Cholo? The original Michelle's? The original El Coyote? What's going to be next?
Thank you. All right. So with that said, Mr. Bonin, for your presentation.
So, Mr. President, I have a presentation to make, but before I do, just 1 second, I have some other students here I just want to recognize. We
Go
have
right
30
ahead.
students here from Pacific Palisades Charter High School, the Pali High ambassadors. They were the
Stand up
ones.
so we can see you guys. Stand up.
Stand
Stand up. Stand up.
That was the cheering section for the beach in the introductory video. So these 30 students apply for and are selected for this program, and they do incredible service. They work with the Palisades Chamber of Commerce, the Community Council, the Women's Club, all sorts of stuff. They're great ambassadors for the community and for their high school, and they're here taking a tour today. So just want to welcome you all for being here today. Thank you. Now, that brings me to my presentation. You all have on your desks a T-shirt and a pair of socks. Where's Stella? Come on up. And that is because of the presentation I'm doing here today. A little bit later on our agenda, we're discussing the initiative that Mr. Wesson launched that all of us are getting behind, the 222, which is an example of everybody in terms of building permanent supportive housing in their districts to address homelessness. Well, the concept of everybody in really needs to be everybody in the city of Los Angeles. It needs to be every neighborhood, and it needs to be every demographic, and it needs to be every generation. And for us, that means building some permanent supportive housing, and for other people, it means finding different ways to get involved. And I wanted to acknowledge an amazing young woman in my district who has been doing her part to get involved. Stella Von Verk, who is 14 years old and who is coincidentally on the waiting list for Pali High, if anybody has any influence, started about a year ago with her father, Jonathan, a program called Stella's Socks. They had been volunteering at Ocean Park Community Center, which is now known as the People Concern, in Santa Monica. Every Sunday, making lunches for people who were homeless. And they quickly learned that there are some basic things that people need for survival on the streets. And one of them is a pair of socks. So Stella, using some of her dad's connections, got to work and got organizations to donate and pay for socks. And once a month, they go out to Venice and most recently to Skid Row, and they pass out 10,000 pairs of socks on a Sunday every single month. And they do that not just themselves, but they have organized other young people, other people Stella's age and in age ranges around her to participate in that and going out and being part of that effort. So I wanted to acknowledge that today. I've actually had the opportunity to work with Stella quite a bit over the past couple of years. I occasionally do bikes with Mike and hikes with Mike, and my most successful bike with Mike around Del Rey and Playa Vista was because my co-organizer for that was Stella. We had over, I think, close to 200 people for that event. She got her classmates, she got her teachers, she got parents from her school, and it was a great community event. And she's got a great heart and a great organizing ability, and I wanted to welcome her here today and give her a certificate. But first, I wanted to give her an opportunity to say a few words.
We're both, okay. Thank you. Yep. So thank you, Mr. Bonin. It is a true honor to be here at City Hall. You know, and thank you for making me dress up today. The last time I wore this jacket, I was in D.C. at the House of Representatives. So this is kind of a very similar thing. But, you know, being at the House of Representatives is one thing, but really working on the ground in local government is just so inspiring and exciting. And number one, I want to thank you so much for inspiring Stella and other people, other young people in the community in Mar Vista and Venice, inspiring them to take a stand, inspiring them to do exciting, innovative things to help the community, whether it's homelessness, whether it's cleaning the beach. And, you know, you and the other council members are a real inspiration to all of them. You know, Stella, who's going to talk a little bit about Stella's Socks, is a young person trying to make a difference in the world. And one thing that we're seeing a lot of is just how incredible young people can be in making a real change in this country and in the city. So I hope that she inspires other people, and I want to thank you. You bet. I'll take it back.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Wait, where's the other one? Okay. Hi, my name is Stella, and I started Stella Socks when I was 13 years old. We registered as a 501c3 this August, which is also known as a nonprofit organization. The idea of Stella Socks began when my dad and I were volunteering at a shelter in Santa Monica. One thing I noticed was that many homeless people didn't have socks, and without socks, how would it be possible for them to even get to the place where they could find a free meal or shelter? It made me feel so frustrated that something as simple as getting socks on people's feet was such a challenging task for a city like Los Angeles, with a homeless population of over 55,000 people and an even bigger population of millionaires and billionaires. And hey, if the millionaires and billionaires aren't going to step up, then I guess I will. I wanted to solve this problem. I asked my dad, can we buy some socks and give them out? And he told me, we can't spend our money our way out of every problem. First, we got in touch with many incredible organizations like Midnight Mission, OPCC, Step On Bod Second, and many others that are on the front lines of combating homelessness to see if they were interested in receiving socks, and the response was overwhelming. We then contacted a local company, K-Bell, as well as Bombas, a company that donates one pair of socks with every pair purchased. I called and pitched them my idea, and they agreed to partner with us. After that, many companies began noticing us and wanted to be a part of Stella Socks. As of now, Stella Socks is an organization that collects, donates, and distributes 100,000 pairs of socks to homeless and homeless youth across Los Angeles every year, and we are still growing. One of the projects I am currently working on for Stella Socks is putting a package together to help other kids get Stella Socks set up in their community. I believe that many kids my age or even younger feel that they can not make a difference in this world because they're too young or they're only one person. This is just not true. I am young and I am only one person. And although I got so much help from people such as my dad and my brother Oscar and many others, I know that everyone, no matter how young, can make a difference in this world. Thank you, City Council, for giving me this opportunity to tell you about Stella Socks. I also want to recognize the great work City Council is doing to combat homelessness, from Mayor Garcetti's citywide initiatives to Mike Bonin's work on the local level. Thank you.
So this is for you. And stand over here. You get in the middle. Okay. And yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Why don't we, if it's okay, Mr. Harris Dawson, why don't we go to item 23? So, members, item 23 is now before us, and as we begin this conversation, I think it's appropriate that we can start this off with a poem from Mr. Wright. If you could just come sit at the center table. Let's give a round of applause for former Assemblyman and State Senator Rod Wright. Let's give Rod a round of applause.
You know, one of the great friends of mine, an artist who passed away a few years ago, was also a social commentator. His name was Oscar Brown Jr., and people who knew him just would refer to him as OBJ. And Oscar wrote a poem many years ago that he called Hymn to the Homeless. And I spoke to Council President Wesson a few weeks ago and said that I thought it would be appropriate for a meeting such as this because he was so spot on, albeit 30-some-odd years ago. Oscar passed away about 10 years ago, so I'm honored today to be able to just recite something that was done 30 years ago that brings us to this point. Born to be ignored, homeless people, Lord knows you can't afford their sorrow. Give today and for, absolutely sure, they'll be begging more tomorrow. Nobody respects anyone who begs. Those the system wrecks, it also rejects. It's a crying shame, but who do you blame for those who became lost cargo? Gone down to defeat, sleeping in the streets, scavenging to eat the refuse. Losers on all scores, dwellers without doors, turn to you and yours for rescue. Through cracks in the floor fall these homeless poor. Poverty's hardcore, terrible eyesore. Pitiful to view, yet annoying too, and as they beg, they truly vex you. Hate so being faced by those so displaced, so you go by in haste, unheeding, and as you pass by, naturally you try to deny their eyes a meeting. You believe in good and stuff like brotherhood, and Lord knows you would do more if you could. But the problem's vast and seems bound to last, so you hurry past their pleading. Beggars learn to hide much of pride inside. Hunger is their private tutor. Poverty is the crime for which they do time. Thanks, ma'am, for the dime. And you, sir, as they gaze ahead, desperate for bread, how may they stay fed, their eyes filled with dread? But that bridge must be crossed, or else all is lost, because on that coin you tossed no future. Thank you.
Thank you, and good to see you. With that, I'd like to recognize Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thanks once again, my representative at the California State Senate and resident of Council District 8, the one and only Rod Wright, for starting off these proceedings in the solemn manner that they should be. This is a day when we're very proud of Angelenos in the city of Los Angeles, in many cities across the country, and in our city in the past. Some of the toughest social problems are organized geographically along class lines or along race lines, and things or challenges are left at the foot of certain neighborhoods and then sequestered from other neighborhoods. And so today we have before us a motion that says we're going to break from that, and we're going to break from it in a purposeful way, and that everybody in the city of Los Angeles will be all in on a solution to our homeless problem. We have a few people that I want to call to the desk who are going to give a little bit of testimony. We have Stephanie Klasky-Gamer, if you'll come join us. Elise Buick from United Way, if you'll join us, and Paulina Polanco. Let's give them a round of applause as they're coming forward. Right here at the table. And Elise, if you can start us off with introductions and an overview of you all's presentation today.
Great.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris Dawson, and thank you to the LA City Council for this important discussion today. Today you see in front of you really the embodiment of what this movement is about. My name is Elise Buick. I'm the head of the United Way, and with me is Stephanie, who is with LA Family Housing, and Paulina. And so we think it's important that you hear from people that are building housing, but probably the most important person you're going to hear from today is Mr. Randy Motley, who we're pleased to say has come in off the streets after 11 years. And so as we enter this dialogue, that's what I want us to remember that today is about how we are going to get everyone in, This resolution today says that we are all going to do our part, and we think this will send a loud message to the voters of Los Angeles that this city council, all 15 members are in. You may see, I hope there are students holding up signs behind me, that we really want to have the 222 resolution, which if you do the math times 15, that gets us a third of the way there by 2020. And we think this is a very important message to send today. Here's the thing that we know is that voters want this in their neighborhoods. We recently did a poll that showed that 7 in 10 people said, yes, I want supportive housing for the formerly homeless, my formerly homeless neighbors built in my neighborhood. So everyone in, as Councilmember Bonham referenced, this is our ability to bring in elected leaders, faith-based leaders, business leaders, community leaders, students, all of us to say that we are in, and we are the engine that will be here to support you and organize the silent majority who truly want this solution. It is time for us to embody the sentiments of Triple H and get these units built and get them built across all 15 districts. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie.
Good morning, council members. I'm Stephanie Klasky-Gamer, and I'm here today both on behalf of LA Family Housing, the organization I'm proud to work with, but also on behalf of my colleagues who are building supportive housing throughout our region. As Elise said, the 222 plan before you is a powerful statement that supportive housing belongs in every community in our city. I've been working to build supportive housing, even before we called it that, for nearly 3 decades. This is a moment like no other. Your vote today demonstrates a level of political commitment and will that gives me tremendous hope for our future. It's critical that in every council district and in every community, we play a role in ending homelessness. Our homeless neighbors are, in many ways, just our neighbors. Therefore, the solutions that we put forth must be in every council district and in every community, and we shouldn't be timid about implementing these solutions. Supportive housing, when done right, seamlessly blends into our neighborhoods. I know that because LA Family Housing's 24 properties are just about in every district, from Boyle Heights to West Hills, from South LA to North Hollywood and Tahunga. There are 2 key ingredients to building supportive housing: land and political will. The 222 plan helps us address both of those challenges, and especially the second one, political will. Your vote is a public statement that you are committed to being part of the solution. The supportive housing community is committed to partnering with you to meet and exceed all of your goals. So I thank you for your leadership, and I urge you to support this resolution today. At this time, I'm proud to introduce Randy, a tenant in our new Fiesta Apartments in North Hollywood. On January 9th, on an extremely wet, pouring Tuesday morning, right? 34 of our 49 tenants of the Fiesta Apartments moved into their new home literally from the streets. Our outreach teams were out driving, whether it was North Hollywood Park or the Tahunga Wash, picking up folks who have been our participants participating in services with us picked them up and all their belongings, and that night they slept in their own home. Mr. Motley was one of those tenants, and he wants to share his voice with you this morning.
Hi, my name is Randy Motley. I grew up in Virginia. I came to California in 2007, hoping to get work, which didn't work out. I ended up being homeless. I stayed homeless from 2012 until now, till 3 months ago. Which I moved into the Fiesta on the 9th. It was an extremely rainy day, like she said. I've been sleeping at the post office for going on 5 years. Had to get up real early in the morning because you know how early they come to work at the post office. And I was just so tired of getting up and living in the streets. And I met a lady from FSP in one of the mental institutions. And she introduced me to a guy at West Valley Mental Health. And I watched him for a while, and I trusted him. And he told me if I was to move into LA Family Housing, I would eventually get housing, which I did. I got matched after 2 weeks I was there. And I ended up staying 3 months, and I moved in 3.5, going on 4 months ago, and it's great, you know. Not having to worry about living on the street, being able to come and go when I want to. I just stay thankful, you know. I always remember where I came from, where I can go back to. And I'm just so thankful to LA Family Housing and all the people, you know. It's just so great waking up every day in the house, you know. Not having to worry about getting cold, being in the rain, being hungry. You know, I just stay thankful every day. I'm so thankful.
Add one thing and share for our council members about where you received services and what the struggles were when you didn't have a permanent home.
Oh, I was.
Could you put the mic a little closer?
I was working with West Valley, and it was kind of hard keeping in contact with them. Only time they could really get in contact with me when I went to one of the mental institutions. But like I said, I watched my case manager, and you know, I trusted him. Knew what he was telling me was true, and I had to trust somebody, and it worked out for me. You know, it's still working out for me. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you all so much for coming and sharing with us. I also want to thank you, before I turn it back to you, Mr. President. This is a situation that I think is emblematic and an example of what we need to do on so many issues. You all didn't wait for City Hall to have an answer to this question. You started talking to each other. You built a movement. You had community meetings around the city, a couple of big rallies that I ended up even seeing on television to drum up support for permanent supportive housing in every neighborhood. As you all know, what happens so often is the people who are the loudest and the most honorary are the people who make it onto the press. And the press sometimes allows those people to represent everybody. And what you all did is said, no, we know who our neighbors are, we know how we feel, and we're going to make some noise too. And we're going to come together too, and we're going to get some attention. And so we appreciate you all for that, for helping create a solution, for bringing it to us, and providing a solution to a very tough challenge that I know we will overcome here in the city of Los Angeles. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson, and thank all of you for coming as well. I'd like to recognize Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson, for your leadership on this very important initiative. This is what I would call healthy peer pressure. And it's something that's really good in politics and something that we don't see enough of. Instead of being at each other's throats, we're just encouraging and supporting one another to help address the #1 crises facing modern society, especially here in Los Angeles. I want to thank the panel, and especially Mr. Motley, for telling us your story. And that story could be repeated some 30,000+ times. which underscores the magnitude of the challenge that faces us. Colleagues, the voters have given us something that is very rare. They've given us a clear mandate in overwhelming numbers with the support and success of the passage of Measure HHH and Measure H. All we need to do is let that be our guide. And let me just say that one of the reasons I ran for this seat in 2013 was to address the homeless and affordable housing crises head on, and I've been working on that ever since. And I just want to say this, that thanks to the collaboration that we've had with our nonprofit housing partners, my team, and the focus of my office, in total in the 13th District, currently, we have at least 314 units of supportive housing recently opened, near completion, or currently under construction. And they include 88 units at Mosaic Gardens, soon to open in Westlake. That's a Link housing project. St. Anne's Beverly Terrace in Rampart Village, where we recently celebrated the dedication and opening of 39 units of supportive housing for formerly homeless, for the most part, moms and their children. In December, we had the very first Measure HHH project break ground in the 13th District over at the Beverly Virgil corridor. We have upcoming announcements about supportive housing and permanent shelters that far exceed the 314 that we currently have, in addition to the 222 that we're all about to commit to. The numbers that we're announcing this calendar year will far exceed that, and they don't even count the 314, including a project in my own neighborhood where I live in Glassell Park. So count me as one of the 7 in 10 who is a big supporter of having these projects in our neighborhood. It's a moral imperative. We have to all be on board. We really have no choice. And it will help define who we are as individuals and as leaders in addressing the crises and making the use of the resources that voters are giving us. It's the biggest no-brainer there ever was, and it's a mission that we should all be on for the rest of our political lives. So again, thank you, panel, for your incredible work. And Mr. Mosley, thank you one more time.
Mr. Root.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I just really want to thank the leadership of Council, Councilmember Harris-Dawson, as well as yourself, Council President Wesson. And I just wanted to rise in strong support of this resolution to build more supportive housing, and not just housing, but supportive housing in every district. And while I am very strongly committed to building 222 units of supporting housing in my district, we need to go beyond that. I am committed, because it's not just about supportive housing, but it's about shelter beds. It's about transitional beds. It's about bridge housing for special populations, affordable housing, workforce housing. It's the whole gambit. And I am very proud of all the work that every council member has done to date, and as well as all of the future projects that we have in the pipelines. And just in my district alone, like Councilmember O'Farrell, I am proud to be moving forward on building the women's crisis bridge housing, as well as making sure that the affordable housing for homeless and seniors on the large campus of the LGBT Center is also being built. But we all know everything that we're working on collectively is still not enough. More must be done. And the only way we're going to get this done is if we all, from every corner of the city, do our own to own this issue. So, and as we all know, homelessness defines LA's present. But let's ensure housing defines LA's future. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Root. Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for calling on me, and thank you for calling on us and convening this last month. And thank you to Mr. Harris-Dawson and Mr. Weezar for their incredible leadership on this. Thank God we're doing this. I mean, really, it's long overdue, and it's just a first step in all of the other things we need to be doing. I want to thank the United Way and the Everybody In campaign for what you've been doing to create the groundswell and the grassroots support for these projects. I want to ask you, though, I want to implore you to do more. You had the tweet storms coming at the folks around the Horseshoe yesterday. Please do the same with our neighborhood councils, our homeowners associations, our local chambers of commerce. Let's get the groundswell really, really going. I also want to underscore what Mr. Rue just said. It is absolutely essential that we build this permanent supportive housing. Absolutely essential. But we also can't wait for the permanent supportive housing and can't do nothing in the meantime. This is literally a life or death crisis. There are people dying on Skid Row every week, people dying in encampments in my district every week. We all know that there are kids who can't walk to school on our sidewalks because they have to walk in the middle of the street because of the encampments in front of our schools, our businesses, our residences. And if we're treating this as an emergency room, and if permanent supportive housing is the ICU or the operating room, sidewalks cannot be the waiting room. They just cannot be. We cannot continue to have these encampments. So I know that permanent supportive housing is the holy grail, and I support it, but I really, really implore you to also push for immediate solutions, for things to get people off the street tonight and next week, whether it's bridge housing or crisis housing or shelter beds. Too many people are dying on our sidewalks, and too many kids are horrified at what they're learning about the kind of city we are by seeing the encampments on our sidewalks. So let's this be the beginning. I look forward to the next press conference and the next initiative when we're all saying we're going to do immediate stuff as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biden. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank my colleague, Marquise Harris Dawson, for his leadership, city level and county level, on this issue and bringing this matter with our colleagues forward today. Special appreciation to the comments that the panel made. You all bring a unique and important perspective as we consider our options. The high number of homeless in CD9 has encouraged us, has led us to do a number of initiatives, but we have to do more. We're proud to implement a safe parking program at one of our churches. We're doing weekly showers in various sites. We recently implemented the mobile pit stop, and so we're proud of that. And with about 7 projects, we're going to commit to 292 units of housing with services, and we think that's important. Not just singles, but 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Especially proud of a project that we'll have, Casa de Rosa site for veterans with kids. And so we have to meet the need in a variety of ways, and we just have to be creative in doing it. So again, I want to thank you for your encouragement, for your leadership coming together. We really, as I said, are committed to doing our share, but I think as everyone has said, everyone needs to chip in. Everyone needs to commit. Everyone needs to produce. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Clearly, this is a problem that virtually everyone in the city is committed to solving. Before HHH was placed on the ballot, I actually had constituents coming up to me for the first time in my 30-year political career and saying, I want to help. Tax me. Do whatever you have to. We need to all solve this problem. Now, I'm strongly committed to the 222 units in my district. And I'm sure, despite the fact that I have a lot of people that supported it, my district may also be the most likely to object to whatever sites we come up with. I'm not going to cave into those objections. I do have a concern to express publicly, though, which is we've had difficulty thus far in siting projects. And I think the fact that there is a high property value will make that difficult. The one location I thought for sure we had, the owner of a shut down completely graffitied and worthless motel, wound up not being willing to sell for a reasonable price to house some veterans, and had stars in his eyes about how valuable his property is. That's the experience we've kind of had throughout the district, so I will put out there for the departments, housing, and others that we could use some help in finding properties and connecting developers and siting them. We think we may be close to having a developer buy the first property for this. We'll see in a few days. I'm 100% committed to it, but we definitely will need some help identifying a city property or two that might be appropriate, or some properties that somehow will meet the criteria. Because I fear there are a lot of places that we could do, but there's only so much we can spend per unit, and that may be a little more difficult for my district. But I'm 100% committed, and with whatever help we can get, we'll get there.
Thank
you. Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, in my short 8 months in office, I'm proud to say that, you know, working with partners like LA Family Housing and others, we are halfway to meeting that target goal. And I'm proud to actually be on a council serving with colleagues who understand our shared responsibility to help meet this need in a very meaningful and effective way. You know, I want to thank Mr. Harris Dawson, you know, serving on HMP committee with you, helping to assure that we create an expedited process that is thoughtful and respectful to community is very important, because we have a shared responsibility to make sure that we do these projects right. And I want to thank you, sir, for coming and helping to share your story, because without that, we are not effectively putting the face on the problem. And we need to continue to do that, because we are staring at the largest humanitarian crisis this city has ever seen. And again, I am incredibly proud to serve on a council with so many colleagues who understand our shared responsibility to make sure that we address this head on. And so thank you for your work. I look forward to our continued partnership, not just in helping to fulfill supportive housing across this city, but our shared responsibility in providing affordable housing, workforce housing, so that we don't ever put families in a situation and a circumstance that they find themselves in homelessness. So again, thank you for your work and your leadership on this issue. I look forward to continuing to be a partner with you to help make sure that we do the outreach efforts that help facilitate many of these families and individuals getting off of the street. I'm proud of the successes that we've made in such a short amount of time, and look forward to our continued work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And let me say first, Mr. Harris Dawson, you have a gift for identifying things that must get done and that people agree must get done but aren't getting done, and then figuring out how to move us forward. And this is an example of that, and I really appreciate it. I think your organizing experience is paying dividends here in the council, because this is an example of that. By setting specific goals with specific deadlines, we're creating, hopefully, a sense of urgency and commitment that will achieve the things that we all talk about but don't often enough take tangible steps to achieve. And this is exactly that. And so I'm so appreciative of these goals. We're well on our way, CD2, to meeting these goals already. But I think it's important to talk to our constituents a little bit about this as well. And Mr. Harris Dawson framed the issue as an equity issue. It is certainly all of that. But it's also an issue of effectiveness. Because if we are not building supportive housing in every corner of this city, we're just not going to be effective in addressing the homelessness challenges that we have in every corner of the city. And Mr. Motley's story is a perfect example of that. You were living in my district, sir, and for years without a home. And I suspect it's true that if somebody had built supportive housing and offered it to you and it was 15 miles away from where you were staying, you'd probably have been resistant to going and, you know, figuring out, how do I get there? How do I make that change in my life? But by building this facility near where you were, we were able to give you an opportunity to find housing that hopefully will, you know, be life-changing for you. And we so appreciate you telling that story, because it helps people to understand that, you know, when our constituents complain to us, and they will, about steps that we need to take, we need to be able to explain to them that there's, Mr. Bonnet said it so beautifully at our press conference, it's an either-or situation. You either have people in your community living homeless, or you provide housing in your community for the homeless. There is no other choice in this. And frankly, our constituents need to kind of face that reality and stop thinking that there's a magic solution that somehow deals with the impacts of homelessness but doesn't require services to the homeless in our very communities. There is no such thing, folks. It doesn't exist. We started a Homeless Connect program in my district a number of years ago when I first arrived in the council. And the first one we had, we were able to, that day, put 8 people into housing. And Stephanie will remember that we could have put a lot more people into housing. They were ready to go, but they weren't willing to go from Sunland to Hunga to North Hollywood. It was too far away, too big of a disruptive change in their life. So if we'd had that housing there, they could have been housed that day. So the result was we built supportive housing in Sunland to Hunga, and I was almost recalled over it. I mean, it was the biggest, worst thing that had ever come to Sunland to Hunga, and people were just flame-throwing over this thing. There's still some bloggers who are still flaming me over this 8 years later. The building that was built, that supportive housing building that was built, was such a beautiful building, the best building on the block. Never has there been a single issue around that building. And all of those opponents who were ready to lay down in front of the bulldozers were there for the ribbon cutting, Stephanie, if you'll remember. And they were applauding themselves for being part of this great new solution. And that's what will happen time and time again in our district, members. So let's not cave in to the loud few in our district. Let's not say, for example, that we're going to have an ordinance in this city where it's okay to live in your cars. But in my district, I'm going to set aside all of these streets where no overnight parking is allowed. Let's not do that. Let's instead find the safe parking in our districts instead of prohibiting it by phony parking restrictions throughout our districts. Let's not give in to the loud few. Let's instead solve the problem. The greatest problem that any of us will have to address in our careers, in our lifetimes, is before us right now. This is an important first step, but I want to attach myself to Mr. Rue's comments and Mr. Bonnet's comments as well about how much else we have to do after taking this first step. It's not just supportive housing, it's everything else, but this is the essential step that we have to take. So we're taking that step today. Let's continue marching forward without fear.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just want to take this time to acknowledge and thank Elise and Stephanie. I think since I got here 4.5 years ago, I have been preaching equity, equity, equity when it comes to a lot of different issues, particularly homelessness. And I think finally a couple of months ago, when you came to my office and presented the actual data, that doesn't lie, the numbers in terms of where the housing is being proposed, where the housing is actually getting built, and the fact that there is 6 or 7 council districts around this horseshoe that are actually doing it, I appreciated the truth to that. And that needs to be acknowledged, and they need to be applauded for the fact that you had courage to speak the truth and hold every single one of us accountable. So thank you very much for that. I think they need a round of applause. Come on.
Give them a round of applause.
It's true. The other thing I want to add is, you know, last week I was supporting a woman who's running for lieutenant governor in the state of California. And we were in someone's living room on the west side. And the one question that everyone had for her was this issue of how to solve the homeless crisis in our city and in the state of California, to be honest with you. And I just happened to be there, so of course the questions were coming my way, even though it was not my event. And I said, I had to get up and ask, how many of you supported HHH? And how many of you supported H? And no one there had anything but praises in terms of the ballot measures. But the question came up, how many of you would support the permanent housing being built in your backyards? And that's the tough question, that we can no longer afford to build this only in communities of color. We can not only afford to only build it in the Northeast San Fernando and the Valley. That is just simply not okay. And so I think that's the biggest conversation, the biggest obstacle that we have is to push back and say, equity is equitable, and it needs to be done across our city, and everyone needs to bear the burden of having to house people for the very reason that it's the humane thing to do. And we can't just talk about it, we need to be about it. And so I want to thank you for that, Stephanie. You and I have an excellent working relationship. We're going to have a grand opening on Thursday to open the 49 units in North Hollywood, and we're going to continue to do what's right for the people of the Valley, but most importantly, hold everyone else accountable as well. So thank you very much for being there, Mr. Mosley. Thank you for sharing your story and for speaking truth to power, and I applaud your efforts, and let's continue to help you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Cedillo.
Let me say I thank you very, very much. I covet this conversation because every day I get up in the city and I have a knot in my stomach. There are two things that drive me crazy. One is the challenges of immigration and the plight of immigrants in our city, in our state, and our nation during this dark era we call the Trump era. And the second that drives me crazy is the plight of those in search of affordable housing. We, in fact, have a housing crisis in the city, in the state, in this nation, and of which the homeless crisis is a subset of. But it's one that confronts everyone in the city. And I'm proud that this city supported HHH. I'm proud of these young people, because young people in this nation are taking us in a direction to solve many of our problems, whether it's gun violence, it's DACA, in this instance, it's homelessness. And I'm proud of you, and I applaud you. And I want to invite you to join me this Thursday in Lincoln Heights at the Senior Center at 6 p.m. Because the challenge that confronts us in this city around this question is NIMBYism. It's what Mr. Krikorian called the loud few. So there is a silent majority that wants this problem solved. We all do. It's in our hearts. It's in our soul. It's our moral imperative. There's no place we can go in this city that we're not confronted by this challenge. But at the same time, NIMBYism is the biggest deterrent. Because as Ms. Martinez said, everybody voted for it. You go in a booth and you say, yes, I want the problem solved. But when it comes to your neighborhood is where the challenge is met. That's the challenge of leadership. In my district, 5 lots that belong to the city, 5 lots that will be part of about 250 lots for which we will build these 10,000 units, is now the central issue. It's interesting to listen to you because they're threatening a recall. They had a rally this weekend. They're saying 5 is unfair. They're going to, preparing to go and block this, right? And so that's our challenge. It's not that we don't have enough support. It's that the support needs to be focused and strategic. Mr. Harris-Dawson, I applaud your efforts to make us be goal-focused, to make us accountable, to make us be precise about what these goals and numbers are. But as Ms. Martinez pointed out, the challenge is for us is this question of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Everybody wants this problem solved. Everybody does. But ask if you can do it down the block at a parking lot that belongs to us, the city, and people are up in arms. In my district, they said we were going to put 1,000 units per lot. 5 lots, 5,000 units. Those would have been 100-story towers in Lincoln Heights around North Broadway. That's incredible. It's unthinkable. It's unimaginable. How could you do that? That would be Hong Kong. But yet, the NIMBYs, the not in my backyards, are out there rallying, going to people saying, look what Cedillo wants to do. He wants to bring all the homeless here. He wants to bring all of Skid Row here. He wants to bring all these people, criminals, right? That's what's going on. And so we need to have a focus that addresses that. Let's deal with this problem honestly, with candor, with integrity. Let's recognize that we have the popular support and that in this, one of the richest cities of the world, that we have the resources to solve this problem. Now we need the political will, and we need the strategic application of that will. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Gil, for your comments and the leadership of this council under the direction of Mr. Wesson. Thank you, Herb, for leading this effort, and of course, Marquise, for really embracing the fact that we all need to do our part in addressing this homelessness crisis. But let me say this, to the point that Mr. Cedillo made on NIMBYism. Well, I'm a YIMBYism. I want this development to occur in CD15, and I wholeheartedly pledge my support of 222 permanent supportive housing units in CD15. In fact, I wholeheartedly pledge my support of any type of housing to come into CD15 at all income levels, because what the issue is here is we need more supply to address and combat the homelessness issue. We put out over 2 weeks ago the Council District 15's pledge in support of housing in my district. In fact, as you can see there on the infographic, we have 311 permanent supportive housing units already built or already in line, including the 160 in the Harbor Gateway area. So our commitment continues to move forward on this. Ms. Rodriguez mentioned the fact that we need shared responsibility within our city limits. However, it's important to note that out of all the 88 cities in this county, we are calling on the other 87 cities to do their part too, because we, the city of Los Angeles, cannot do it alone. We need to continue to work with our regional councils of government, our Southern California Association of Governments as well, because they too need to do their part. In addition, in calling out on all developers to come to this city to create more housing stock at all income levels, it's important to note that we also heard from those who want to invest and build housing in our city that, you know, it takes too long to get a project on the ground. Well, before recess, we as a council overwhelmingly supported and approved fast-track permitting of these type of housing coming into our city to build by right in certain zone areas. And that's the type of leadership that this council has moved forward on to address the homelessness issue. So I stand alongside my colleagues here to move forward on building a minimum, we should say a minimum of 222 units, but supportive housing units, but also looking at all income levels that come not only to my district, but to this entire city. Thank you.
Mr. Englander.
Thank you for this discussion and the pledge. I too support 222 in my district proudly. I think it goes also beyond NIMBYism, although I'm grateful that that's the conversation that's really emerged out of this dialogue, because it seems to be an obstacle. I don't think it's the only obstacle, but it's an obstacle. The voters did more than vote themselves to support this initiative. They voted to tax themselves. to put their money where their mouth is. And this is one where they actually understood where they were voting. This is one of those that they knew damn well when they walked in to vote what this was going to do and what they hoped it would do. It wasn't one of those they're reading later says, oh, I didn't know there was a tax associated with it. I didn't know we were going to be getting some housing in my district. I wouldn't have voted for that. We're not hearing any of that. In fact, we're hearing, well, what are you doing about it? So one of the things I think we all need to do more of is bring people to projects that have been successful, particularly starting first with our neighborhood councils. I've led a tour of the San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission over and over with community groups and chambers. Some of my colleagues that have been out there, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson's been there twice, all the way out to the valley, all the way out to my district twice to check out that project. But it's not just about NIMBYism. That's one piece of it. It's changing that narrative and them understanding what it means. And it starts first, I think, in what I've seen, is breaking down the barriers as to why people are saying no. They don't want it. It's not that they don't want people that are living on the street sheltered. It's not that they want or don't want folks that are homeless living in some kind of supportive housing or shelter program. So you start having that dialogue with a lot of folks, which I do every day, and you find out that that's not what the barrier is to them supporting it. They're concerned about their values of their homes. You hear a lot about that. And then you show proof that that, in fact, hasn't impacted any single area where one of these facilities and projects are built. And you show the evidence, which we have. You show the proof, and you explain to them and let them meet some of the success of sheltering folks and what that means to getting on track. You explain and have a conversation about what housing first models mean. That if you expect somebody with a mental health or an addiction problem to go to a program, whether it's 12-step or otherwise, leave that program, perhaps even get back onto a bus and go crawl back into a cardboard tent and stay sober, you're crazy, because they're not going to do it. That's why Shelter First works. That's why making sure that we have the least amount of rules and tear down those obstacles. You can't expect to go to somebody and say, we've got a bed for you, whether it's shelter or transitional or supportive housing with wraparound services, but you need your veterans discharge paperwork. We need to show that you have all of your insurance requirements. We need to show that you are sober or started in a 12-step program. Then we'll put you on a list, and that list is about 90 days to 120 days, and then we'll come back and see if you're interested. It's not going to work. That's what we're doing now. It doesn't work. Open a door, let them in. We'll ask questions later. One of the things, too, though, and why I say it's not just about NIMBYism, it's developers get scared. We actually, in just a quick story, this is insane, you can't make this up. We had a project that was by right approved for 440 units. 440 units. Now, this was one of the most recent community plans in the city of Los Angeles that was just updated. We have 35 of them, and they're many years old. And this was in Granada Hills. And originally, right before this community plan update was done, it was allowed by right to build about 800 plus units. The community got together. The community wrote the community plan and said, no, that's too much at that location. Should this shopping center ever convert to housing, we want to lower it to a maximum of about 400 and 440. Developer came in, bought it right after the community plan did that, downzoned it at 440 with the density bonus, and get this, 8 affordable, moderate affordable housing units, 8. The community went ballistic. They started an anti-440 campaign. They petitioned my office, and then they showed up with picket signs and the media. So I walked out, and I said, shame on all of you. Because they said, we don't want renters, market rate. We don't want 8 affordable, moderate affordable. And I said, shame on all of you. So I called a town hall and showed up. Hundreds of people showed up. And I said, no, you guys are all wrong. You're the very people complaining. And yet, here's a solution by right, which I don't even have a vote, and you're putting pressure on this developer to back down. The developer backed down. That was a mistake. It was a mistake on the community. It was a mistake to the developer who wanted to be a reputable developer and work with the community and come back and do other projects in other members' districts and wanted to make sure that he listened to the neighborhood council and every others. I publicly shame them for what they did. So we have to hold that line. It's not just up to us. It's not just about NIMBYism. It's about education, communication. It's aggravation, reaching all those people and bringing them out to show them what projects are like and why we need to do it. We need to do more. And without rattling off projects in my district and things I'm working on and focused on, I really support this conversation and thank you all for everything you're doing as well.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. And I just want to be brief and thank the chamber and Elise, you and your folk, because you guys were leading this effort when nobody was really with you. So I commend that, and in my view, that's just courage. I also want to say to the council and the members of the council, you must never, ever, ever forget that this is the council that took the lead on this issue. We're the ones that indicated that somehow, some way, we were going to tackle this problem, and then you saw other governments get engaged. So I just want you to know I love it when we come together as a council, and I've worked with you long enough to know that when you make a commitment like you've made today, that every member seated around this horseshoe will keep that commitment. That I know in my heart and in my soul. And members, at the end of the day, if we're going to solve this problem, we're going to do it one person, one family, one unit, one step at a time, one united city. And we have to realize on this issue, we must lead with our hearts. And the people of this city hired us to lead, not to manage. So with that said, if you could please, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. And you know something else, members, on this, I was on the motion, Mr. Harris Dawson, I think Ms. Martinez, Mr. Bonin, and Mr. Krikorian seconded it, Mr. Rue, Mr. Huizar took the lead on it, but this was the one motion I've done in my career where every member wanted to actually sign that, and I think that's a testament to the mindset of this council. Let's give ourselves another round of applause, because what we're doing is trying to create the optics that this will occur. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And good luck to you, Mr. Motley. We're going to continue items 18 and 18A for 1 week.
And Mr. President, on 18, the amending motion 18A has been posted and circulated, and it'll be continued 1 week, which is March 27th.
Thank you. Let's take up item 8. If I can get Curran Clark, Colleen Mason Heller, Cindy Kane, Ian Strano, if you guys would come up to the podium. Guys, if we could move, I'm working here. Mr. Price, let's move.
And Mr. President, as the speakers come forward on item 8, an amending motion has been posted and circulated for council's consideration.
Yes, please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Karen Clark. I apologize for the spelling my parents invented. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with whatever amendment is now being circulated on this matter, so I'm going to go ahead and read my prepared remarks.
Please.
A 1,500 square foot house behind my neighbor was torn down several weeks ago by a developer with a permit under the BMO to replace it with a 2,900 square foot house. Although work began every morning at 7 a.m. for many weeks, oddly, since March 10th, there has been no work on this site. If this motion passes, you can bet new plans will be filed for a 3,400 square foot house. Make no mistake, more residents of Cheviot Hills have publicly advocated to remain in the R1 BMO than have asked for R1V2. Check the record. There are sufficient remedies and options available to the relatively few number of families whose homes are close to the 45% R far under BMO to add a bathroom or expand a dining room without changing the zoning designation for 1,400 houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward and identify yourself.
Hello, I'm Colleen Mason Heller. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I would like to briefly comment on item 8, the amended motion to upzone Cheviot Hills neighborhood from R1 BMO, where it currently is, to R1V2. R1V2 would allow bigger, taller, more intrusive homes while reducing green space, mature trees, smaller homes, and Los Angeles' architectural legacy. That being said, Amendment 2A acknowledges the threat posed by developers and speculators. That is indeed a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, the time it will take to implement it to be studied, drafted, and sent through city planning, city attorney, Plum, and the City Council will be far longer than the 6 months to a year stipulated in the amendment. That window will invite a blizzard of permit applications by developers which last for 3 years. Those things don't expire for 3 years. Therefore, motion 16-1470 should be withdrawn until the means to implement the amendment and enforce it are complete. Any questions? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Kane. I've been a resident of Cheviot Hills since 1991. I would like to thank Councilman Koretz for his work in proposing R1V2 for our neighborhood and encourage you all to vote for it. Thank you very much.
Ian Strano, I'm here today to discuss the R1V2 zoning that Mr. Koretz and his staff have diligently pursued and worked on. The current BMO does not provide sufficient square footage for a house. The R1V2 zone is approximately 400 square feet larger than the BMO residence, and therefore we're not anywhere close to these back mansions that these prior speakers were talking about. The BMO doesn't even accommodate my family. I couldn't bring my parents into the home to live with us, and it's very, very restrictive. I think it's very logical. If you look at the plans for any BMO home, you'll see that R1V2 is a very appropriate zone and a nice concession. And again, thank you, Mr. Koretz.
Yes, so again, we always support our neighbors to the south in the 5th District. And we realize that what happened here was a complete administrative fuck-up on the part of the council member and the part of all of us in neighborhood councils. And one of the things that we remember is that, well, we do things differently in the 5th District. We come together. His chief of staff is a nice lady, and other people in his office are nice. And we work together in the 5th District, so we need to vacate whatever was passed and get people, especially in Cheviot Hills, next to that golf course we all play at. What's the name of it? Rancho Park. Yes, yes. We need to get that. And, of course, next to that famous golf club, the private one, the one where it takes $200,000 to join, yes. Well, we support the wealthy in the 5th District. Now, I could be one of these puppets that gets up here and complains all the time. I'm not one of those puppets. I'm a puppet who solves
Okay,
problems.
you're not on the subject matter, so I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, no, your time's up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. You know the rules. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, Eric Shapsis, followed by Chris Carey.
Good afternoon, Eric Shapsis, 10544 Clarkson Road in Cheviot Hills. I'm here representing over 300 Cheviot Hills residents who have reached out to Councilmember Koretz over the past 18 months in support of R1V2 for our community. The councilman has gone the extra mile in understanding where the Cheviot Hills community stands on this issue. At every turn, what he has heard was support for R1V2 over BMO. Cheviot Hills has been waiting for over a year for our zoning to be resolved in favor of the residents, and we are happy that today has come. On behalf of my Cheviot Hills neighbors, including over 20 who have emailed me in the past 48 hours asking if I could comment for them here today, thank you for listening to the majority, Councilmember Koretz. It is our hope moving forward that the select few who have caused this unnecessary delay will stop the divisiveness in our neighborhood that has overwhelmed our wonderful community. Thank you.
All right. Chris, come on up. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Spindler, can you ask Mr. Spindler to please escort him out, sergeants, for disrupting this meeting? He was making animal sounds and looking up, then he ducked down to try to hide that he was doing it, but sorry, go ahead and escort him out. Please, sir, you can wait for 1 minute. We want to make sure we hear you. Stop disrupting the meeting and yelling out as you were already asked to leave. You're continuing to yell out, Mr. Spindler. Continuing to yell out while we've already asked you to be escorted out. Herman, did you want to add something to that? Okay, thank you. You're excused. Thank you very much. Sergeants, help him out, please. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. You're disrupting this meeting. You're continuing to disrupt this meeting. Thank you. We'll wait till he leaves the chambers. He's continuing to disrupt the meeting and yell out. Mr. Kokorian.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure the mics won't pick it up, but I just wanted to let you know, Mr. President, that I was speaking to Mr. Koretz, who sits next to me, and he was trying to explain something to me, and I literally could not hear what he was saying because of Mr. Spindler shouting out from the audience.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you're bragging or complaining on that, but no, I understand it. And so apologize for that, and that's why we paused the meeting for a moment. Okay. All right, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience.
My name is Chris Curley. I'm a resident of Cheviot Hills for over the last 12 years. I'd like to thank the councilman for his efforts. Listening to the City Planning Commission that has supported R1V2, our homeowners board on a roll call numerous times the majority has supported R1V2. Neighborhood surveys, the councilman's own personal outreach within our community, the councilman's neighborhood meeting, a majority of residents supporting R1V2, and unfortunately we've had a very vocal minority that has held up this vote for over a year. Our community strongly believes that R1V2 is a compromise. It's fair to smaller lots and point of entry residents, and I want to thank the councilman for supporting R1V2, and I look forward to the vote. Thank you.
Okay. Herman, Armando, Herman, followed by John Walsh. Stick to the subject matter, please.
So we all know on CD5, thank you, Peppa Pig, for the continued land use management to protect homeowners by these regulations for single-family dwellings. We heard the discussion by the previous speakers and that of the warning of Wayne Spindler that we need dwellings to represent not the golf courses in that area, but to represent the public's interest in single-dwelling habitat. Now, if we continue to promote and give money to the golf players and let these developers build in our small community, we will not or no longer be a part, for the record, assessed to this so-called negative declaration. So on behalf of the public interest in CD5, fuck you!
For yelling into the microphone, you've been warned too many times. You do that again, and you're going to be asked to leave, and we'll cut your time. In fact, you know what? I think you've filled out cards for additional time, so I'm going to review that as well. Mr. Walsh?
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. And this is item 8. This is the item zone changes. They sneak through zone changes. What they're doing is if you live in a beautiful neighborhood, they want to put up huge high-rises, especially if you live in a black neighborhood. They want to get your black ass out of there and get yellow asses in there. I'm telling you right now, the Hispanics, how many Hispanics are there? Illegal aliens, 4 or 5 million? There are 8 billion illegal yellow aliens.
See, you're not on the subject matter, Mr. Walsh. Okay, so your time is up. Thank you very much. All right, colleagues, that concludes the public comment on this item. So we'll go ahead and open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead, Mr. Rue, we're going to go to item 20. I do have a verbal amendment, though, that I'd like to read in the record. I know you wanted to go first, but we may just open it up for comment on that because of the change on it. So, okay, so my verbal is simply to add to this that we have a moratorium with the exception of existing pilot projects initiated either through a council motion or with the council member of the district's support on dockless transportation programs until a regulatory system that protects Los Angeles communities can be established.
Thank you, Mr. President, and yes, it is accepted as a friendly amendment. And colleagues, we all know that Los Angeles is facing a large, huge mobility challenge. We are a growing city with over 40,000 people have moved in here just in 2016 alone. And for the 6th year in a row, we have been rated the most traffic congested city in the world. We need options, a multimodal system for getting around, and a way to solve the first and last mile problem of mass transit, which is why I proposed the dockless bike sharing program, which has already rolled out in 30 other U.S. cities. An easy and affordable way to get around, but in no way will this single solution solve all our problems or even work in Los Angeles. So we should study the challenges these other cities face and learn from them. And I want to ensure that we're tracking where they are being parked, legally or illegally, and make sure that this pilot is rolled out equitably. Regardless, something must be done, and we must be more proactive and get ahead of this ever-increasing traffic. And this motion moves us in that direction. And all the things that I know that LA Department of Transportation will consider in developing a pilot program and something we can study as the pilot rolls out. So I encourage an aye vote with the amendment.
Great, thank you very much. And we did open it up for public comment. Give a minute. Is there anybody here that did wish to speak on this particular item with the amendment? Okay, seeing none. Okay. And seeing no speakers on the queue, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
So for multiple speaker cards, John Walsh, you've got 2 minutes.
What are the 2 minutes on?
Yeah, you have items 1, 2, 4, 24, and 26. 2 minutes on those.
1, 2, 4,
1, 2, 4, 24, and 26.
Okay. 1, 2, improvement, maintenance, street lighting. Street lighting is fairly in good shape. 2, 4. If you do a good job, 26, street lighting is very good. I'd like to go, I've been living in, I moved to the city of Los Angeles in 1966, and what we're hearing here is there's enough of this. I'd like to go into my general public comment. You have a mayor that has a husband and a wife. He has a husband. Now, if you can destroy my credibility, by Mr. Price, by getting up and saying you're full of shit. The mayor is totally heterosexual, and you're making out that Glenn, and I'm naming names, Miss Glenn Dake, who's Sylvia Dake. He got her a job with the county, with the city, and he also got another deal for MWD. I'm talking right now about everybody wants to suck the mayor's, Glenn Dake's, cock. And I'm telling you right now, if this was bullshit and I was talking about Koretz, you'd jump up and say, that's bullshit. And you'd be right. Koretz is heterosexual, but the mayor is gay and he likes to suck cock.
Can you, Mr. Walsh, please, next time, and I'm going to enforce this on your future general public comment for items that are only under the purview of this body and this council, and that's it. And so that's going to be your warning for now, today, and future meetings, as long as I'm presiding over this meeting. Patricia McAllister.
What do I have, sir? Which one? Okay, thank you.
General public comment and number 1. So you have 2 minutes. 1 minute from 1A, and then 1 for general public comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, number 1, I want people with liens and people who are about to lose their homes to know that part of HHH has a section where it's supposed to have funds for people who are about to lose their homes because we don't want to put more people on the street. So people on here with these liens, get into City Hall. Don't go to the districts in your community because they give you the runaround. Come right here into City Hall because in HHH, I read it, I'm a computer scientist and a teacher, there's money for people who are about to lose their homes. Get down here. Don't be afraid of these politicians. Most of them going to jail anyway once we start running these illegal aliens out of here. And we're going to bring troops up in here. So you better get it together. So I want the people with liens. And if you don't have a lien, if you're behind in your property taxes or whatever, get into City Hall because we want to help you save those homes. We don't want you on the street. Many of you are on the street because every week I see all of these people with liens and we get about 50 that's taken off. So I know thousands are losing their homes every year. So come on in here and see me. I'll be here, Patricia McAllister. Now, my public comment. That pony show you just had about your pledge, we don't need your pledge, okay? We don't need your good faith pledge because Measure HHH raised property taxes in order to issue a bond of $1.2 billion to help the homeless in the city. And if you don't use that money, we're going to put you in prison. We don't need your pledge. Now, I drove around to 3 of them. Marquise Harris Dawson, 7600 South Vermont. He hasn't built a darn thing. People are still there, businesses. I've talked to people in the community. He hasn't done a thing. Curran Price, District 9, 4060 South Figueroa. Businesses are still there. He hasn't done a darn thing, haven't built anything. Herb Wesson, Council District 10, nothing. Businesses are still there. I talked to some people. When I went out there, they said they haven't done a darn thing, and I could see it. Businesses are still operating. You Negroes are going to do your job. The black people, the few that we do have in this city, are homeless. And I want all 3 of you, I'm going to hold all 3 of you accountable. And I'm going around to all the districts.
Jacqueline?
This is about one church who has members who are married. However, they are not legally married. As a result of their not being legally married, attendance is down, membership is down, healings are not in abundance, anointings are down. If they were to reverse this and get married under the laws of the
Excuse me,
state...
ma'am. I'm going to hold your time right now. Herman, you're being asked to leave. You're disrupting this meeting by standing in the middle. You keep going back and forth. You've been warned numerous times. You've already yelled into the mic, and you lost your time for that. So, sergeants, please escort him out. Please stop yelling out. Go ahead and escort him out. Go ahead. You're warned every meeting.
I just like.
I don't have to warn you every single meeting. You've been warned. All right. So now yelling hate speech. That's going to help your case a lot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just like to say the idea that Herman does not know that he's allowed to do that is crazy. You do warn him every single time. This is constant.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
And he's shouting as he leaves, as usual. And he's still disrupting the meeting. And he's finally shouting as he leaves. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If the membership would reverse this trend and get legally married under the laws of the state of California, healings will increase, anointings will increase, membership will increase, attendance will increase. As soon as they start doing that, the blessings will start flowing down for them. They will have better membership, better healings, better attendance, better anointings, and it would greatly benefit the whole church. It's one church here that needs to get their members legally married so that they can have better healings, resolve problems more quickly, get their anointings, get their attendance increased, get their membership increased, and do better work in the community, in their churches.
Thank you very much. All right. That concludes multiple speakers and general public, so we're going to go ahead and close public comment, and we'll go ahead and move on the rest of the agenda. We've got items 28, and we'll vote on the circulated amended substitute motion, and so we'll open the roll on that.
Correct, and the first vote will be on whether to substitute.
Yes, thank you. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. And now we'll go ahead and vote on that item. We'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and vote then on the remaining items, first 1 through 7, colleagues. We'll go ahead and open the roll on 1 through 7, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. And then items 24 and 26, we'll go ahead and open the roll on those, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, those are approved. That should take us to council items that need posting and referral, so we'll go ahead and post and refer to those. Anything
and
else
Mr. President, there is a request from a member to send item 11 forthwith.
Okay, without objection, that'll be the order. Okay, thank you very much. And colleagues, do we have any announcements? Seeing none, do we have any adjourning motions? We do? Okay, so if we can get everybody in council chambers to please rise for adjourning motions. Please rise for adjourning motions. Council Member Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask that we rise in honor of Andrew Martisich, who passed away peacefully with his wife of 30 years by his side at the age of 74. Born in San Pedro, first-generation Croatian immigrants, he would spend most of his life living in the San Pedro community that he dearly loved. He received a bachelor's degree in business from Cal State Long Beach, where he was a member of the Sigma Pi fraternity. He joined the Army Reserves when he graduated and spent 45 years in a career in the petrochemical industry as a contract specialist. Very active in his community with a keen eye to the environmental issues in the harbor area. He is preceded in death by his parents, Andrew and Lucy Martisich, and his nephew, Michael Werner. He is survived by Socorro, his loving and devoted wife, his children, Andy and Kevin, sister Winnie, nephew and niece, great nieces and nephew, and many cousins throughout California, Croatia, and France. May he rest in peace. And second, if I can, I'll ask that we adjourn in memory of Dawn Jennifer Michaels, passed away in her home on March 2nd, 2018, born on August 31st, 1974 in San Pedro. Graduated from San Pedro High in 1992, enjoyed a 24-year career at Southwest Airlines, in which she moved from customer service agent to ground operations agent, and most recently moved to the ground operations cargo agent. Working in the industry for Southwest Airlines also afforded her the opportunity to pursue her passion for travel. Dawn is survived by her father and mother, Bill and Kirsten Michaels, her brothers Brian and Kevin, 5 nieces and nephews, her loving grandmother Beverly, and many aunts, uncles, and cousins. She is preceded in death by her grandfathers Mike Michaels, Art Wingdahl, and grandmother Irene Burge. Dawn, who a fellow alum of mine from San Pedro High School, class of 1992, will be remembered for her love of family and friends, her amazing smile that lit the room, her appreciation for the beach, her warm hugs, laughter, most of all her smile. May Dawn Michaels rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Koretz? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Harris-Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I ask that we, for the purposes of remembrance and as an expression of gratitude, adjourn in the memory of Councilwoman Marielle Franco of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, a young councilwoman, the age of 38 years old, an Afro-Brazilian who had come to prominence in that town protesting corruption in that city, police and community violence in that city, and extrajudicial killings, was assassinated after leaving a community meeting on Thursday night of last week. And as I reflected on the story, I thought it was a great opportunity for us to express our gratitude that we live in a place where we don't worry about that. Where as council members we can put pressure on the system, we can challenge the status quo, we can speak our minds, we can have arguments, we can yell at each other, and we can go home safely that night, wake up the next morning, and be about our business. That's not the case all over the world, and this young Afro-Brazilian woman's life is a testament to that, one, we ought to be grateful for the situation that we live in and that we are provided, but also to remember that the spirit of freedom and justice and equality runs throughout the world, and it is not as protected around the world as it is for all of us.
Well said. Thank you. Mr. Kretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Karen Flores. Connecting people, healing nature was her Twitter tagline. And she was an environmental leader, a river advocate, and a networker extraordinaire. She dreamed of rewilding Los Angeles and worked to protect, preserve, and propagate green spaces, wildlife and wetland habitat, and living systems into the depths of the oceans. She was a dedicated volunteer for many years on the annual LA River cleanup, coordinated by Friends of the Los Angeles River. And in 2010, she called FOLAR to express her interest in volunteering at their office. She led the cleanup at Betty Davis Park that year and was hired in 2011. Karen was extremely thorough. She brought a level of detail to the cleanup events that is still in use today. After FOLAR, Karen worked at the Debs Park Audubon Center, promoting their programs and helping to establish their native plant nursery. She was active in many communities and inspired a coalition of students, residents, and officials to develop a polystyrene ban in Burbank and to educate high school students about mounting plastic waste. She organized people and decision makers to help stop a plan that would have increased oil train transportation down the LA River corridor. She championed the Save LA River open space cause, manning their social media campaign. She participated in the planning for other river revitalization plans, including Arroyo Seco, as well as the Lower LA River, and also contributed to planning for the Rim of the Valley Corridor Preservation Act. She was a warrior for the heart and soul, and a fighter for environmental justice and freedom of the wild, and her dedication and never give up spirit will be greatly missed. She's survived by her parents, Deborah Pugh and Tony Flores, and may she rest in peace.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Corey.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, most of us can remember growing up and having a teacher change our life in some way. And most of us can remember a person in our community who always reached out to others and made them feel welcome and affected their community with positivity and optimism and made change in their community that way. And Angela Consolo Rossi was such a person in Valley Glen, and I ask that we adjourn this meeting in her memory. She grew up and went to school in Studio City at Our Lady of Corvallis High School. She became the first in her family to attend college after that, going to Cal State Northridge and receiving her teaching degree there. Right out of college, she began teaching and had a tremendous career affecting generations of young people, first for 20 years in South LA and then going to historic Filipino town at Rosemont Avenue Elementary School, where she remained for the rest of her career. She pursued a master's degree in educational administration and became an LAUSD mentor teacher. Mentor teachers are teachers who have such experience and expertise that they can share that and enrich the careers of younger teachers, and by doing that, helping to reduce the amount of teacher turnover, which is such a terrible problem in LAUSD, but also cutting dropout rates and improving test scores and improving the quality of education in the classrooms that she impacted. Outside of teaching, Angela kept busy helping her neighbors in Valley Glen, volunteering in the community with the Valley Glen Neighborhood Association alongside her husband Richard, and also she spent a lot of her time as a devoted member of the Christ the King Catholic Church of Los Angeles, where she was a dedicated volunteer helping to organize community events and always dedicated to creating occasions to celebrate diversity, inclusion, and outreach. Angela was an exemplary member of our community, and the Valley Glen community specifically, and was always looking to build new bridges, break down barriers, and make new friends. And her joyful spirit and immense dedication will be very much missed in Valley Glen and throughout the East Valley. She's survived by her husband, Richard Rossi, but she left a lasting impact on our community that will have positive impacts for generations still to come. And may she rest in peace.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez, did you have? Okay. So I don't see any other adjourning motions. That concludes this council meeting. We're officially adjourned. Thank you. Be safe.